There was no attempt at humor at all in what he said. And as a matter of fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix. This isn't cable. This is broadcast TV. And when you have broadcast TV, you have to, the airwaves are owned by the public.
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
Let's be real for a second. Watching TV late at night used to be the perfect way to unwind, to laugh, relax, and forget about the day's chaos. It wasn't about politics or finger pointing. It wasn't a classroom lecture or a stage for moral preaching. But somewhere along the way, that all shifted. Late night comedy lost its spark and turned into an endless back and forth of political grandstanding, a far cry from the charm of Johnny Carson's era. And now, one of the biggest names in that very system has stumbled. Enter Rob Schneider, who, true to form, didn't bite his tongue when he saw it coming. So here's what happened. When Jimmy Kimmel's dismissal from ABC made headlines, the internet practically exploded. Schneider stepped into the chaos like a truth torch in hand, setting off a wildfire of reactions. Some applauded his brutal honesty. Others accused him of crossing a line. But let's get one thing straight. He didn't just throw insults. He dropped truth bombs that shook the so-called woke crowd to its foundation. And no, he wasn't offering sympathy or solidarity to a fellow comedian. Schneider was handing out reality checks, and honestly, it was refreshing to witness. He kicked things off with one of the most piercing remarks of the entire debate. The Constitution doesn't promise anyone a TV show. Exactly. No matter how many people shout free speech when their favorite celebrity gets canceled, that freedom doesn't come with $1 million network contract. You can say what you want. That's your right. But the network also has the right to say thanks, but we don't want you representing us anymore. That's not censorship. That's just business. And when Schneider said it with that razor-sharp wit of his, you could almost feel Hollywood stop and gasp.
Joining me now to figure all this out is actor and comedian Rob Schneider. Rob, it's great to see you here today. Are you chilled? Are you in fear for the future of comedy and free speech?
Well, Will, first of all, I woke up this morning to the incredible shock that apparently TV shows are not guaranteed in our Constitution. I mean, wow. So that was tough to swallow. First,
think about it for a second. Would you keep an employee who publicly mocked your customers on national TV all in the name of free speech? Of course not. Freedom of speech protects you from government punishment, not from losing your job when your words damage the company's image. Yet every time this happens to someone on the political left, the same dramatic cry echoes, "Democracy is collapsing." Rob Schneider didn't hesitate to call that out, and his honesty hit hard, but he wasn't finished. He wanted to tackle the elephant in the room, hypocrisy, and this time it struck a nerve. Remember Roseanne Barr? The moment she made remarks about Valerie Jarrett, ABC removed her without hesitation. The left didn't rally behind her right to speak. They laughed, mocked, and moved on. No one demanded that she keep her paycheck. But now that Jimmy Kimmel faces similar consequences, suddenly it's a national tragedy. Comedy, they claim, has died. Schneider refused to let that double standard slide. He emphasized one simple truth. Principles only matter if you apply them equally. As he put it, if you had no issue cheering when Roseanne was canceled, you can't cry foul when the same system turns on your guy. Otherwise, it's not a belief, it's just politics. And Schneider made sure to spotlight that inconsistency at every turn. But things took an even sharper turn when he aimed higher, far beyond TV networks. He reminded everyone that censorship wasn't just happening in Hollywood boardrooms, it was taking place in Washington too. Schneider accused the Biden-Harris administration of pressuring platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to silence voices they didn't agree with. This wasn't speculation or rumor either. The public saw the evidence. Twitter files revealed how stories were hidden, posts buried, and government guidelines quietly morphed into online suppression. And the irony? The same crowd that once cheered this system is now stunned to see it turning against them. The very machine they helped build has started consuming its own. Sometimes the truth doesn't need to be explained. It just speaks for itself.
second, I'm still waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. And then I'm also waiting, I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, for the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through the government.
Now, to be clear, Rob wasn't denying that false information exists or defending everything Roseanne ever said. His message was much simpler. If you cheer for censorship when it benefits your side, don't act shocked when the same weapon turns against you. That, he said, is the real punchline. And Schneider delivered it flawlessly. But this was also the moment he turned his focus straight toward Jimmy Kimmel. His words were sharp but honest. Kimmel's comedy had lost its spark. Think back for a second. When was the last time a Jimmy Kimmel joke truly went viral because it was funny? Not because it was a jab at Trump or a cleverly disguised political rant, but because it genuinely made people laugh. Hard to remember one, isn't it? That's exactly Schneider's point. Somewhere along the way, Kimmel traded laughter for lectures. The joy and spontaneity that once made his show entertaining got replaced with endless political commentary. And as Schneider bluntly put it, there isn't much humor left in what Kimmel says anymore.
What you have capitalist pressure. Capitalist pressure is really important because what happens is you have to make money or you have to do something of value so that you can get something in return. Now, the interesting thing was, it's false advertising because honestly, look, Jimmy Kimmel can be funny, and I don't mean to take anything away from that, but the fact of the matter, can you remember a political joke that went viral? What was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all.
Not even a hint of it. He was no longer joking. He had a sermon to deliver. Additionally, since you are not just another podcaster shouting into a microphone, you should exercise prudence when preaching on public broadcast television. You're using a platform with reach, accountability, and guidelines. Rob also stressed the point.
As a matter of fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix. This isn't cable. This is broadcast TV. And when you have broadcast TV, you have to, the airwaves are owned by the public. And to get that license, you have to be in the interest, like you said, of the public. And so that's why when there's a news van parked in the white zone, they don't get a ticket because they are there to present news to inform the public in the public interest. So what happens is 25% originally was supposed to be the news to inform it, just to get that license. So when you absolutely lie to the public, then you are no longer in the public interest, like Jimmy Kimmel did the other day.
Broadcast television isn't Netflix. And that's where people often get it wrong. The problem isn't about cable or streaming. Traditional TV uses public airwaves, and because of that, networks must operate in the public's best interest to keep their broadcasting licenses. That's why news outlets are held to higher standards. They're expected to share accurate information, not twist it. And when someone like Jimmy Kimmel spreads false claims on national television, it's not just bad taste. It's a violation of that public trust. So when a network steps in and pulls the plug, that's not censorship. That's accountability. Here's where things get even more fascinating. Many rushed to frame Kimmel's firing as some kind of government attack, claiming the FCC was out for revenge. But Rob Schneider was quick to shut that down. That's ridiculous, he said. The FCC wasn't hunting anyone. At most, they might have issued a warning or asked for an apology. Nothing more. No shutdowns, no fines, no revoked licenses. The truth was simpler. ABC made that call on its own. It wasn't about politics. It was about money and reputation. The executives didn't like what Kimmel said because it made the network look bad, so they made a business move. That's how the system works. If you hurt your company's brand or profits, you don't get to keep your spot. End of story.
Mislead and lie, and actually was something dangerous. So with the FCC chairman, he didn't say that he was going to pull the license. He was going to give them a warning and ask for an apology, if what I understood on the Benny Johnson show. And so it's not the government doing it. And when 246 different stations around the country say we're no longer airing this, it's because they heard from their consumers. They heard from their customers. And they said, that's it. We're not doing it. And so Nexstar, who was a great guy over there, Sean Compton, said, that's it. He's the CEO and said, when we have complaints like this and none of the channels, 246.
As Schneider put it perfectly, that's a lesson a lot of celebrities still haven't learned. Your platform isn't an open mic for anything you want to say. It's a privilege. And if you abuse that privilege, don't be shocked when it's taken away. According to him, Jimmy Kimmel fell right into that trap. He got stuck inside a political bubble, echoing the same talking points you'd hear on channels like MSNBC or CNN. The curiosity that once made his interviews sharp and his humor relatable vanished. Instead of connecting with everyone, he started preaching to one side, and that's when the laughter stopped feeling genuine.
And in defense of people who can get absolutely entrapped into this political echo chamber. And that's what happened to, I mean, in my opinion, what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. I heard him talking on some podcast with another comedian, and it's easy to get trapped in your political echo.
It started out as simple jokes about Trump, but gradually the jokes evolved into lectures and partisan talking points masquerading as humor, and instead of tuning in to laugh, the audience started to tune out completely. And what do you know? Rob is correct. Kimmel is comparable to Johnny Carson in that while Carson was able to make lighthearted jokes about politics, he never made his political opinions obvious because his purpose was to amuse, not to divide.
You're absolutely right about you have to bring value to your employer. You also have to serve, as you pointed out with the FCC's regulation, the public interest. Now, no one denies that you or Jimmy Kimmel can have your opinion, but it's where you use that opinion and on what platform. And there was a time, Rob, when late night hosts seemed to understand that balance a little bit better. And I just wanted to, with you and our viewers, remember together Johnny Carson.
In the past, families would gather around late night TV to laugh and forget about the day's turmoil. Carson delighted people of all political persuasions. At the end of the day, people tuned in because they wanted to laugh, not be instructed on how to cast their ballots.
I really think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues. That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
I agree with Johnny 100%. Well, Johnny Carson was unique in the sense that you don't really know if he leaned left or right. Sometimes he leaned left, sometimes he leaned right, but he was there to get laughs, and he realized what people wanted to do. And I remember, like, as you know, when we were little kids climbing into our mom and daddy's bed when they let us stay up late on a Friday, and we'd watch Johnny Carson, we'd all laugh together because Johnny was there.
People are tired of the endless political noise in the media, and late night TV has become just another part of that machine. That's what made Rob Schneider's critique hit so hard. He wasn't just calling out Jimmy Kimmel. He was shining a light on the slow collapse of late night comedy itself. Schneider pointed out how these hosts traded genuine laughter for political grandstanding, how they let activism swallow entertainment, and in doing so pushed away half the country that once tuned in just to laugh. He also reminded everyone of a simple truth. Freedom of speech doesn't shield you from consequences. You can say whatever you want. That's your right, but you can't demand that others keep paying you to say it. And what made his words even more powerful was the tone behind them. Schneider wasn't being cruel or gloating over Kimmel's downfall. He was issuing a warning to every comedian out there, don't fall into the same trap. Because in show business, your value comes from your ability to make people smile. Once politics takes over your punchlines, the humor fades, and when the laughter disappears, so does your worth.